Right now, in this very moment, something extraordinary is happening. You're here, you're reading these words, and that's no accident. There are no accidents in this universe. Everything that comes into your life, every person you meet, every book you read, every thought that crosses your mind, it's all part of a divine pattern. And if you're feeling that little stirring inside you right now, that sense that maybe, just maybe, there's something more you're meant to understand, then pay attention. Because that's not just a random feeling. That's the universe speaking directly to you. You see, most people go through their entire lives asleep. They wake up in the morning, but they're not really awake. They go through the motions. They do what they think they're supposed to do. They follow the path that others have laid out for them. They listen to the voices of their parents, their teachers, their society, telling them who they should be, what they should want, how they should live. And in all that noise, in all that external chatter, they completely miss the one voice that matters most. The voice within, the voice of their source, the voice of God. Now, when I say God, I'm not talking about some old man sitting on a cloud judging you. I'm talking about the creative intelligence that's behind everything. The force that makes your heart beat, that grows the grass, that moves the planets in their orbits. Call it whatever you want. Call it the universe, call it spirit, call it infinite intelligence, call it the Tao. The name doesn't matter. What matters is that this intelligence is real, and it's trying to communicate with you every single day of your life. But here's the thing, most of us don't know how to listen. We've been conditioned to look outside ourselves for answers. We think we need another degree, another relationship, another possession, another achievement before we can be happy. We think the answer is somewhere out there. And so we spend our whole lives searching, seeking, striving, always feeling like something's missing, always feeling like we're not quite enough. And then one day, if we're lucky, something happens. Maybe it's a crisis, maybe it's a loss. Maybe it's just a quiet moment when you're alone and you suddenly feel this overwhelming sense that there has to be more to life than this. That moment is grace. That moment is God tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, remember me? Remember who you really are? Because you see, you're not just a body that's going to die. You're not just your job title or your bank account or your relationships. Those are just the costumes you're wearing in this play called life. The real you, the eternal you, is so much more than that. You are a spiritual being having a temporary human experience. And the purpose of this experience isn't to collect as many toys as possible before you die. The purpose is to remember your true nature, to wake up, to realize that you and the source of all creation are not separate. You are one. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. That sounds nice, but it's just spiritual talk. What does it actually mean for my life? I've got bills to pay. I've got problems. I've got responsibilities. And I get it, I really do. But here's what you need to understand. When you start to align yourself with this truth, when you start to live from this awareness, everything changes. Not because your external circumstances necessarily change, though they often do, but because you change. Your perception shifts. And when your perception shifts, your entire experience of life transforms. You stop being a victim. You stop blaming other people for your unhappiness. You stop waiting for the world to change so that you can feel good. Instead, you recognize that you have the power to choose. In every single moment, you have the power to choose how you respond. You have the power to choose what you focus on. You have the power to choose what meaning you give to the events in your life. And this isn't positive thinking. This isn't about pretending that problems don't exist or putting on a fake smile when you're hurting. This is about something much more fundamental. This is about recognizing that your true self, your source self, is already whole. It's already complete. It's already perfect. And when you connect to that part of yourself, when you remember who you really are, you automatically start to operate from a different frequency. Think about it. When you're disconnected from your source, when you're living from ego, everything is a struggle. You're constantly worried about what other people think of you. You're constantly comparing yourself to others. You're constantly feeling like you need to defend yourself, prove yourself, protect yourself. Life becomes exhausting because you're trying to swim upstream. You're trying to force things to happen. You're trying to control everything and everyone around you. But when you're connected to your source, when you're living from spirit, life flows. Not because everything becomes easy, but because you're no longer resisting what is. You're no longer arguing with reality. You accept what is, and from that place of acceptance, you take inspired action. You trust that the universe has your back. You trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. And from that trust comes a peace that passes all understanding. Now you might be wondering, how do I get to that place? How do I connect with this source? How do I hear God's voice? And the beautiful thing is, it's not complicated. In fact, it's so simple that most people miss it. They think they need to go somewhere special, do something special, become someone special. But the truth is, your connection to source is always there. It never went anywhere. You just forgot how to tune into it. It's like having a radio. The radio waves are always broadcasting. They're all around you all the time. But if your radio isn't tuned to the right frequency, you won't hear the music. And most of us have our radios tuned to the frequency of fear, worry, doubt, and negativity. That's what we're bombarded with all day long. The news tells us to be afraid. Advertising tells us we're not good enough. Social media tells us everyone else has a better life than we do. And we absorb all of that, and we wonder why we feel anxious and depressed and disconnected. But you can change the channel. You can tune your radio to a different frequency. And you do that through your thoughts, through your words, through your actions. You do it by becoming aware of what you're putting out into the world. Because here's a universal law that never fails. You get what you put out. If you're putting out fear, you'll get more things to fear. If you're putting out love, you'll get more love. If you're putting out gratitude, you'll get more things to be grateful for. This isn't magic. This is how the universe works. Your thoughts create your reality. Not someday, not eventually, but right now. In every single moment, you are creating your experience through your consciousness. And when you really get this, when you really understand that you are the creator of your life, not the victim of it, everything changes. Now, let me tell you something that might surprise you. God isn't trying to reach you with some big dramatic sign. God isn't going to send you a burning bush or write a message in the sky. That's not how it works. The way God reaches you is through the still, small voice within. It's that intuition you feel. It's that gut feeling that tells you to call someone, to take a different route, to say yes to an opportunity even though it doesn't make logical sense. It's that sense of knowing that comes from beyond your mind. And here's the thing about that voice. It never shouts. It never demands. It never uses fear to motivate you. That's how you know it's not your ego talking. Your ego loves to shout. Your ego loves to tell you everything that could go wrong. Your ego loves to remind you of your past failures and predict your future catastrophes. But the voice of Spirit, the voice of God, it whispers, it gently guides, it suggests, and it always, always points you toward love, toward growth, toward your highest good. But most of us never hear it because we're too busy, we're too distracted, we're too caught up in the drama of our lives. We've got our schedules packed from morning to night. We've got our phones constantly buzzing with notifications. We've got our minds constantly racing with thoughts about the past and worries about the future. And in all that noise, in all that busyness, we completely miss the present moment. And the present moment is the only place where God exists. The present moment is the only place where life exists. Everything else is just a story we're telling ourselves. So if God is trying to reach you, if the universe is trying to communicate with you, the first thing you need to do is slow down. You need to create space for silence in your life. You need to spend time alone, without distractions, without entertainment, without anything to occupy your mind. Just sit, just be, just breathe. And in that stillness, that's when you'll hear it, that's when you'll feel it, that presence that's always been there, waiting patiently for you to remember. And when you start to make contact with that presence, when you start to feel that connection, your life will begin to transform in ways you never thought possible. Because you'll start to realize that you've been asking the wrong questions. You've been asking, how can I get what I want? How can I be successful? How can I be happy? But those are ego questions. Those questions assume that happiness is something you need to achieve, that success is something you need to attain, that fulfillment is something outside of you that you need to acquire. But the real questions are different. The real questions are, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And when you ask those questions from a place of genuine curiosity, when you're willing to listen for the answers, that's when the magic happens. That's when you start to understand that you didn't come to this planet to accumulate things or to impress people or to play it safe. You came here to express the divinity that you are. You came here to share your unique gifts with the world. You came here to love and be loved. You came here to grow, to learn, to evolve. And every single experience you've ever had, every challenge, every setback, every disappointment, it was all preparing you for this moment. It was all teaching you what you needed to learn. It was all shaping you into who you're meant to become. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was a mistake. It was all part of the divine plan. And if you can look back at your life with that perspective, if you can see how even the painful experiences served your growth, then you'll start to trust. You'll start to have faith that whatever is happening right now, no matter how difficult it seems, is also serving your highest good. But here's where most people get stuck. They say, okay, I understand all this spiritually. I believe in a higher power. I believe there's a purpose to my life. But I don't know what it is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm waiting for a sign. I'm waiting for clarity. And what I want to tell you is, stop waiting. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting to feel ready. Because you know what? You're never going to feel completely ready. There's never going to be a perfect time. The clarity doesn't come before you take action. The clarity comes through taking action. When you start moving in the direction of your heart, when you start following that inner guidance, even when it doesn't make sense to your rational mind, that's when doors start opening. That's when synchronicities start happening. That's when the right people show up at the right time. That's when resources you need become available. But none of that can happen when you're sitting on the sidelines, waiting for guarantees. You see, faith isn't about knowing how things are going to work out. Faith is about taking the first step, even when you can't see the whole staircase. Faith is about trusting that when you align yourself with your purpose, with your passion, with your truth, the universe will support you. Not necessarily in the way you expect, not necessarily in the timeline you prefer, but always in the way that's best for your soul's growth. And let me tell you something else. Your purpose isn't some grand, complicated thing that you need to figure out. Your purpose is simple. Your purpose is to be yourself. Your authentic, real, uncensored self. Not the version of you that you think you should be. Not the version that will please your parents or impress your friends or fit society's expectations. But the real you. The you that exists underneath all the conditioning, all the programming, all the limiting beliefs. That version of you already knows what to do. That version of you already has all the answers. That version of you is connected to infinite intelligence. But you've covered it up. You've buried it under layers of fear and doubt and unworthiness. And the journey back to yourself, the journey back to God, is really just a process of removing those layers. It's a process of letting go of everything that isn't you, so that what remains is your true essence. And I want you to know something. That essence, that core of who you are, it's magnificent. It's beautiful beyond words. You are not here by accident. You are not some random collection of atoms that happen to come together. You are a deliberate creation of the universe. You are here for a reason, and that reason is important. It matters. You matter. But you're not going to feel that. You're not going to know that if you're constantly comparing yourself to others. If you're constantly judging yourself by external standards of success. If you're constantly looking for validation from the outside world. Because that's a game you can never win. There will always be someone richer, prettier, smarter, more accomplished. And if your worth is tied to those external measures, you'll always feel like you're falling short. But when you root your identity in your connection to Source, when you know yourself as a spiritual being, then nothing outside of you can diminish you. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need anything to be different than it is for you to be okay. Because you already are okay. You're more than okay. You're perfect exactly as you are in this exact moment, with all your flaws and imperfections and wounds. In fact, those wounds, those broken places, they're often your greatest gifts. They're the places where the light gets in. They're the experiences that give you compassion, empathy, understanding. They're what allow you to connect with others on a real level, because we don't connect through our perfection. We don't connect through our highlight reels. We connect through our humanity, through our vulnerability, through our shared struggles. So if you've been through hard times, if you've made mistakes, if you've failed, if you've been hurt, if you've been lost, know that none of that disqualifies you. None of that makes you unworthy. In fact, it's often through those experiences that we finally wake up. It's often when we hit bottom that we finally look up. It's often when everything falls apart that we finally let go of our illusions and surrender to what is. And surrender doesn't mean giving up. Surrender doesn't mean being passive. Surrender means letting go of your need to control. It means trusting that there's a larger intelligence at work. It means understanding that you don't have to figure everything out by yourself. You're not alone. You've never been alone. You're always being guided, always being supported, always being loved. But you have to be willing to receive that guidance. You have to be willing to ask for help. You have to be willing to admit that you don't have all the answers. And for many of us, that's the hardest thing. We've been taught to be independent, to be strong, to handle everything on our own. We've been taught that asking for help is a sign of weakness. But that's backwards. True strength is in knowing your limits. True strength is in being humble enough to admit when you need support. And when you ask, really ask, from a place of genuine openness and humility, the answers come. They might not come in the form you expect. They might not come immediately, but they always come. Sometimes it's through a conversation with a stranger. Sometimes it's through a book that falls into your hands. Sometimes it's through a dream. Sometimes it's just a feeling, a knowing, an inner certainty about what you need to do next. But you have to be paying attention. You have to be present. You have to be willing to see the signs, because they're everywhere. The universe is constantly communicating with you through everything around you, through nature, through art, through music, through other people. Everything is a mirror reflecting back to you what you need to see. And if you're in a difficult situation right now, if you're struggling, if you're in pain, I want you to consider this. What if this situation is exactly what you need? What if this challenge is here to teach you something essential? What if this difficulty is actually an opportunity in disguise? What if God is trying to reach you through this very circumstance, trying to show you something about yourself, trying to help you grow into the person you're meant to become? I'm not saying that bad things are good. I'm not saying that suffering is fun. But I am saying that everything can be used for your benefit if you're willing to look at it differently. If you're willing to ask, what can I learn from this? How can I grow through this? What is this situation revealing to me about myself, about my patterns, about my beliefs? Because often, our most painful experiences are our greatest teachers. They force us to question everything. They strip away what's not essential. They show us what really matters. And on the other side of that pain, if we're willing to go through it rather than around it, we emerge stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more authentic. And that's really what God wants for you. Not comfort, not an easy life, but growth, expansion, evolution, the fulfillment of your potential, the expression of your unique purpose. And sometimes that requires going through fire. Sometimes that requires facing your fears. Sometimes that requires letting go of what you thought you wanted so you can receive what you actually need. But here's the beautiful thing. You're equipped for this. You have everything you need within you to handle whatever life brings. You might not think you do. You might feel weak or inadequate or unprepared. But that's just your ego talking. Your true self, your spirit, it's infinitely powerful. It's infinitely creative. It's infinitely resourceful. And when you tap into that power, when you connect with that source, there's nothing you can't handle. And the way you tap into it is through your presence. It's through your awareness. It's through taking time every single day to go within, to sit in silence, to connect with that still point inside you where God dwells. It doesn't have to be for hours. Even 5 or 10 minutes a day can make a profound difference. Just sit. Just breathe. Just allow yourself to be with whatever is arising without trying to fix it or change it or understand it. And in that space, you'll start to notice something. You'll start to notice that there's a part of you that's observing your thoughts. There's a part of you that's witnessing your emotions. There's a part of you that exists beyond all the drama of your life. That's your true self. That's the eternal you. That's the part of you that was never born and will never die. That's the part of you that's connected to everything. And when you rest in that awareness, when you identify with that observer rather than with your thoughts and emotions, you'll find a peace that nothing in the external world can disturb. You'll find a joy that doesn't depend on circumstances. You'll find a love that's unconditional. And that's what you've been searching for all along. Not out there in the world, but right here within yourself. You see, the kingdom of heaven isn't some place you go after you die. The kingdom of heaven is a state of consciousness. It's available right now. It's here. It's always been here. You've just been too distracted to notice it. You've been too busy chasing things that can never satisfy you, running from things that can never really hurt you, trying to control things that were never yours to control. But now you have a choice. You can continue on that path. You can keep doing what you've always done. You can keep listening to the voices of fear and limitation. You can keep playing small. You can keep pretending that you're just a body, just a person, just a temporary blip in the cosmic story. Or you can wake up. You can remember who you are. You can claim your birthright as a divine being. You can start living from your highest self rather than your lowest fears. You can begin to create a life that reflects your true values, your deepest passions, your unique gifts. And I'm telling you, if you're hearing these words right now, if something in you is stirring, if some part of you is saying yes, then that's God trying to reach you. That's the universe calling you home. That's your soul reminding you that you came here for more than just getting by. You came here to thrive. You came here to shine. You came here to be a light in the world. But you can't do that if you're living in fear. You can't do that if you're playing by other people's rules. You can't do that if you're constantly worried about what might go wrong. Because when you live in fear, you're disconnected from your source. When you live in fear, you're operating from scarcity. When you live in fear, you're creating more of what you're afraid of. The antidote to fear is love. And I don't mean romantic love, though that's beautiful too. I mean the kind of love that sees the divine in everything. The kind of love that doesn't judge or condemn. The kind of love that accepts what is. The kind of love that trusts in the perfection of the universe. The kind of love that knows everything is working out for the highest good of all. When you live from that kind of love, miracles happen. Not because you're special, but because you're aligned with the creative power of the universe. You're swimming with the current instead of against it. You're saying yes to life instead of resisting it. And when you say yes to life, life says yes to you. So stop resisting, stop complaining, stop blaming, stop making excuses. All of that is just keeping you stuck in the same patterns, the same problems, the same limited reality. Instead, start taking responsibility, not for what happened to you, but for how you respond to what happened to you. Not for other people's behavior, but for your own. Not for the world out there, but for the world inside you. Because that's where your power is. That's where your freedom is. That's where God is. Not somewhere up in the sky or far away, but right here inside your own heart. And when you connect with that presence, when you feel that love, when you know that peace, you'll understand what I'm saying. You'll realize that everything you've been seeking, you already have. Everything you've been longing for, you already are. And from that place of wholeness, from that place of completion, you'll naturally want to give. You'll naturally want to serve. You'll naturally want to contribute. Not because you should, not because someone told you to, but because it's your nature. When you're full, you overflow. When you're connected to infinite abundance, you can't help but be generous. When you know yourself as love, you can't help but extend that love to others. And that's really what this whole human experience is about. It's about learning to love. It's about learning to forgive. It's about learning to see past the illusions of separation and recognize the oneness that connects us all. We're all in this together. We're all part of the same whole. What I do to you, I do to myself. What I give to you, I give to myself. There is no other. There's only God expressing itself in infinite forms. And when you see that, when you really get that, you stop judging, you stop condemning, you stop seeing enemies. You see, only brothers and sisters, all on the same path, all trying to find their way home, all struggling with the same fears and doubts and insecurities that you struggle with. And you become compassionate, you become patient, you become kind, not because you're trying to be a good person, but because that's what naturally emerges when you're connected to your source. Kindness is your nature. Love is your nature. Joy is your nature. Peace is your nature. You don't have to create these qualities. You just have to remove the blocks to their expression. And those blocks are your thoughts, your limiting beliefs, your negative self-talk, your attachment to outcomes, your resistance to what is, your need to be right, your fear of being wrong, your identification with your ego. All of that is like static on the radio, interfering with the clear reception of the divine signal that's always broadcasting. So your work, your only work, is to clear that static, to question those thoughts, to challenge those beliefs, to let go of those attachments, to surrender that resistance, to release that need to control. And you do that not through force, not through willpower, but through awareness, through simply noticing, through watching your mind like you would watch a movie without getting so identified with the story. And the more you practice this, the more you'll find that there's a space between you and your thoughts. There's a gap between you and your emotions. You're not your thoughts. You're the awareness that's aware of the thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're the consciousness that experiences the emotions. And that consciousness, that awareness, that's who you really are. That's God within you. That's your true nature. And from that place you can choose. You can choose which thoughts to believe. You can choose which emotions to indulge. You can choose which actions to take. You're not a victim of your conditioning. You're not at the mercy of your past. You're not controlled by circumstances. You have free will. You have choice. You have power. But you only know that power when you're present. When you're lost in the past, you're powerless. When you're worried about the future, you're powerless. The only place your power exists is right here, right now, in this present moment. And God is trying to reach you right here, right now, in this present moment. So come back. Come back from wherever your mind has wandered. Come back from your regrets about the past. Come back from your anxieties about the future. Come back to now. Come back to this breath. Come back to this moment. Because this moment is all there is. This moment is all that's real. Everything else is just a thought. And in this moment you are whole. In this moment you are complete. In this moment, you are enough. You don't need to be anywhere else. You don't need to be anyone else. You don't need anything to be different. You are exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, becoming exactly who you need to become. Trust that. Have faith in that. Know that. Not with your head, but with your heart. Feel it in your bones. Sense it in your gut. Allow yourself to rest in that knowing. And from that place of trust, from that place of faith, from that place of inner knowing, take action. Not frantic action, not desperate action, but inspired action. Action that comes from your intuition, from your guidance, from that still small voice within. And watch what happens. Watch how life begins to flow. Watch how doors begin to open. Watch how people begin to show up. Watch how resources begin to appear. Watch how things that seemed impossible become possible, not because you forced them to happen, but because you aligned yourself with the natural flow of the universe. This is what it means to live in grace. This is what it means to be guided by Spirit. This is what it means to hear God's voice. And if you're here, if you're reading this, if something in you is resonating with these words, then you're being called, you're being invited. You're being asked to step into the fullness of who you are, to claim your power, to live your purpose, to be the light that you came here to be. So what are you waiting for? What's holding you back? What fear do you need to face? What belief do you need to release? What are you ready to let go of? What are you ready to step into? The universe is waiting for your yes. God is waiting for your yes. Your highest self is waiting for your yes. Say yes to life. Say yes to love. Say yes to yourself. Say yes to this moment. Say yes to your path. Say yes to your purpose. Say yes to all of it, the good and the bad, the easy and the hard, the joy and the pain. Say yes to the whole experience because it's all sacred, it's all divine, it's all God expressing itself through you. You are so loved, you are so supported, you are so blessed. Even if you can't see it, even if you can't feel it, even if your life looks like a mess right now, trust that there's a plan. Trust that there's a purpose. Trust that everything is conspiring for your highest good. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be. Trust that God is trying to reach you, has always been trying to reach you, and will never stop trying to reach you. All you have to do is listen. All you have to do is open. All you have to do is receive. The love is here, the guidance is here, the wisdom is here, the peace is here, the joy is here. Everything you've been seeking is here, right now, in this moment, within you. Come home. Come back to yourself. Come back to your source. Come back to God. The journey begins and ends with you.